Hey boys and girls, it's KnightStalker here. Welcome along today to my ranged unit tier list for Season 11. Check it out. We're just about at the very end of Season 11 now. Season 12's starting very soon, so you can probably take this for that season too. Just one thing before we start. I've done some polls and things like that. I found that overwhelmingly players are playing by themselves and they are playing random siege matches. So that's what this tier list is about. It's not relevant to territory war. Talk to your house commander about that. It is not valid for ranked units. For ranked battle. So please don't take that as being the most meta units in the game. It's my opinion about what is powerful, what's a good unit, what's weak, and what's trash tier for solo queuing random siege. Now, some of you might not agree with my descriptions here. Please, by all means, in the comments below, put it nice and respectfully, even if you think I'm totally wrong, because a lot of new players will watch this video and it's good for them to have opinions on from other people as well. So please, be respectful, but give me your opinion down below, even if you think I'm wrong. Now, without further ado, let's go on into this. So, the very first one we've got here is Archer Militia. I've been trying to make a video on Archer Militia just for the hell of it and for giggles, and even with full purple doctrines, this unit actually isn't terrible. But generally speaking, this unit is absolute trash tier. You'll find that unless you are hyper focusing it and putting full purple doctrines on it, you'll never get anywhere. And there's just nothing to be said about this unit. All of the white tier archers generally are going to end up in trash tier, and so most of the green ones. It doesn't do enough damage, it doesn't have enough armor penetration. This is the Black Dragon Archers. These are a mercenary unit that some people have the unfortunate experience of paying about $1 million silver or whatever, about 750 or $1 million silver for this unit. It is the cheapest mercenary unit available, and a lot of people finally get enough silver to get this unit for the exemplar, right? Because it's got the exemplar ability, you're going to get extra experience, extra bronze, extra unit experience at the end of the battle. That's true for all mercenary units. Don't get this unit. Save up your silver just a little bit more to get the Metallurgi, who are a hammer bro unit. They push siege engines. This unit is utter garbage. Its only ability is to spam poison once every minute. It's just not worth it. So this has a little retinue word on it because I currently have them assigned to my chevaliers as their retinue. This is the domain arbalists, so they're crossbows, giant crossbows. Now, I really like this unit, even when it's not part of the chevalier unit. I've been playing this unit a lot, even before they became relevant in that way. Are they a powerful unit? Absolutely not. Are they a good unit? Well, they're a little bit too squishy and they lack a bit of armor penetration. But I'm going to put this one in weak. And the reason for that is if you can double shot them and you can get lots of good doctrines on them, they will actually shred apart anything that is not super heavy. So not Silidars, not Iron Reapers, not Imperial Spear Guard, but anything that is moderately armored, they will typically shred if you have a double shot doctrine on them. So because it's situational, I'm going to put them in the weak tier. Domain Archers. Without doubt, they're going straight in the trash tier. And not enough penetration, not enough fire rate, not enough damage. They're just terminally horrible. do not boost this unit. So now we've got the Domain Arquebusiers. They're a blue unit with muskets, and they're just a little bit too plain. They're definitely not a powerful unit. Are they a good unit? They're definitely not trash tier either, because like most muskets, they have a very high armor penetration and a very high damage stat. So I think we're going to put them in weak today. And the reason that they're in weak is that there's just nothing special about them. They stand in one spot, they have reasonable accuracy, they have a reasonable rate of fire, so they do a reasonable amount of damage. But I just couldn't call this unit a good unit. But it's not trash tier. Right? If you can stutter step them, which basically means move left a little bit, fire a volley with the one key, move right a little bit, fire a volley with the one key, you can get some good work done with them. But the thing is about this unit is that it's overshadowed by its predecessor, the Iron Cap Arquebusiers, and we'll get onto that soon. So, the Domain Crossbowmen. The Domain Crossbowmen have a very high rate of fire, but they have a very low amount of damage. So, they're comparable really to the Rattan Marksman, but without the special arrows and things like that. Are they trashed here or are they weak? Well, if you've got the Chevaliers, I recommend trying this unit with your Chevaliers, which are the tier 5 cavalry. But typically speaking, I'm going to put them in weak. The only thing that's stopping me putting them into trashed here is they have a massive rate of fire. When I play this in high elo or high tier matches, I can get some work done with this unit. But if you even look at it with a mean look, it will fall over and die. Its hit points are so low, it's just disgusting. It's really on the border between trash and weak, but because you can pump up the unit, I'm going to put it in weak. It certainly isn't anything that you'd see in high tier games, but if you're new to the game and you're level 0 to 300, this unit will get some work done for you if you look after it. Falconetti. Easy. I think this is going to come as a surprise to nobody. This unit is powerful. It can shoot from a very, very long way away with a reasonably high arc. It does high damage, but most importantly, if you were to put the little targeting circle on, say, a capture point, anything where the cannonballs fall is going to get knocked down, CC'd instantly, and take a reasonably high amount of damage. It smashes through units like a hot knife through butter. The vulnerabilities in it is that it's very, very slow. It has relatively limited ammunition, but you can get around that by placing it on a supply point and firing halfway across the damn map. So they're very vulnerable to hero dives particularly, but there's no denying that this unit is very powerful. There are some setup places where it's very, very hard to get to them, and they can just absolutely smash the enemy continuously with very, very little they can do about it. I don't know if I would call it overpowered, but it's certainly a very powerful unit. So, Scree, the Fire Archers. The Fire Archers are an interesting one. In high tier, high elo matches, you're going to come across a lot of enemies that are immune to the fire. They have just a basic... There's two types of fire in the game. One is like napalm, and the other one is just, I don't know, burning, for want of a better term. The napalm is used by the flamethrowers and the ball handlers. And that fire, even if you're typically immune to fire, those will still get you, particularly these guys. It's absolutely brutal. But the type of fire that these guys generate doesn't do that. So if they're resistant to fire, this won't have any effect on them, and that is pretty much everything at high tiers. In low tiers, it certainly can get some work done, because if a unit charges at you and you turn on your fire arrows, they're never going to reach you, because they're all going to get one by one stunned very quickly for a long time, and you just completely pelt them with archers. So I'm going to put it in weak. If you're playing low level, 100, 200, 300, you might want to think about maybe trying them, because they can certainly do some damage. But by the time you're getting to that point in the game, you're fighting shield units, there's Iron Reapers running around. So really, very early on, they're okay. They're not trashed here, because they do have a useful ability. But I'm certainly going to put them in weak. They're certainly better than the domain crossbows. So into weak they go. The flamethrowers, good unit or powerful? Here's the thing about the flamethrowers, is that they're very, very vulnerable. They have relatively low hit points. They have armor that is made of gasoline-soaked rags and paper, which is really terrible when you use a flamethrower for a living. And the flip side of that is that they can be utterly devastating. You can stop entire assaults, like multiple units and heroes with this unit. You can stop it dead in its tracks if you support it. It's a tricky unit to use. I wouldn't say complex, but it's a tricky unit to use well. I'm going to put that in the good unit one. And I'm going to put it in good unit because when you're playing random sieges, it's very rare to have coordination with your team. So if your team set up a unit of shields and then a unit of pikes and put you in the middle of it, they become very, very nasty. But in solo queue siege, I'm going to put them into good unit. A good solid unit. Tricky to use, but highly rewarding and actually a lot of fun. Committing war crimes is always amazing. Janissary Hackbateers. This unit is good. They have high accuracy, high damage, reasonable rate of fire, and they have some abilities that sort of punch through shields, and they get better at shooting over time. This unit is a good unit. It is particularly useful in things like healing forward, where you're protecting the A point, where you can set up a unit of gunners and sort of blast across the point. But also anywhere like Constantinopolis, Reginopolis, whatever you call the map on your server, in the C point where it's all enclosed. And even other things where you have the freedom to set up musket units and not have to worry about them or move them. This unit is very, very good for that. They're absolutely not powerful, and they're definitely not weak. So we're going to put them into the good unit bracket. Good solid unit worth playing if you haven't done so yet. This is a contentious one because I have some opinions about this unit that not everybody shares. The Houndsmen. They're definitely not trash tier. They're definitely not weak. So when they have all of their dogs, they are a powerful unit. Why? Because they have some abilities that stun the enemy or slow them down, and then if the dog hits them as well, they become immobilized for a period of time and you tear them apart. This unit will shred heroes with its number 1 ability and its bleed, so it's a really, really powerful unit. In my opinion, the thing that's going to make me knock it down to the good unit is that the doggos in this unit are extremely aggressive and they tend to run off and get themselves killed easily in the first engagement that you put these guys towards. And because they need those dogs to stop infantry and cavalry charges on the position or to lock things in place, they quickly just get knocked down to a good unit. So I think they're very, very powerful when they first come out, but they gradually get whittled away over time. I'm going to put them in good unit. Even though they're a personal favourite of mine and they possibly could go into powerful, I just think that the hyper-aggressive dogs that go off and get themselves killed too quickly knocks them down to good unit. Imperial Archers. Expensive unit, this one. 255 leadership from memory. Their ability is that they can change to, instead of firing normal arrows, to fire bodkin arrows. And so they fire these arrows slower, but they're much, much harder hitting. Very, very good for killing unaware heroes or heroes that just think that they can ignore them. You know, one arrow, even on a heavy armor user, will do 2,000. Or so, you know, anywhere from 1,800 to 2,200 damage per hit with a bodkin arrow. Very, very nasty. And if you underestimate them and blink and you get hit by 5 arrows, well, that's 10,000 damage instantly. So this is a good unit, in my opinion. They're quite vulnerable. They're not particularly fast. They have a reasonable amount of ammunition. Just a tip, do not use the arrow rain doctrine on this unit. It lowers its damage too much, and the damage is what this unit's about. So I'm going to put this in good unit. It's definitely not weak, and it's definitely not powerful. It's a unit that is good and useful insofar as archers go. Archers are currently a little bit out of the meta, but they certainly can get some good work done. We've got the Imperial Arquebusiers. Now, this used to be the best ranged unit in the game back in the good old days. It had the highest DPS in the game, and I'm not sure if that's still true, although the DPS on this unit is horrifying. If you tech them into the volley fire mode, where they form up in 3 ranks and they just fire volley after volley after volley, it's extremely accurate in volley fire. It's extremely damaging in volley fire. The cooldown's a little bit long on the ability, but the thing that's letting them down currently is they're made of paper. They're only got about 2,000 hit points, I think, off memory. Certainly no more than 3. And that gets them killed very quickly by ranged heroes. One musket bomb wipe this unit, you know, or put it into a state where it's useless. Same with pretty much any archers, but these guys are particularly vulnerable because they've got to stand still while they do their ability, so they get flanked and things like that. You don't see this much anymore, this unit. They've sort of been replaced by some of the higher tier muskets like the Shinjis or the Tercios. Is it a powerful unit? Absolutely not. Is it trash tier? No, you can get work done with this unit. They put out a lot of firepower very quickly. It is extremely damaging. Is it a good unit? No. If it was a good unit, you'd see it a lot more. So we're going to put this one into weak, just in its current state. It needs a bit of modernising, perhaps. You can get good work done with it, but it's just too vulnerable, I feel, to be a good unit. So, Iron Cap Archers. It's definitely not powerful. It's definitely not a good unit. So is it weak or trash unit? I'm going to put it in weak. And the only reason I'm not going to put it in trash tier is it has good abilities in that it can fire arrows. 1 in something arrows, 1 in 10 arrows maybe become fire arrows. They also have, I believe, arrow rain naturally on this unit. and I'm struggling to think whether I put a doctrine on it or whether it's natural. I think it might be natural. And they shoot fire arrows as well. So it's really good at shooting light units. It's particularly good at shooting other archers. It's not, you don't ever see this unit in game later. I wouldn't invest anything into it. But it's just, I'm going to put it in weak. It's almost in trash tier. Okay, I'm being very generous, but it's got some abilities that put it above these sort of guys. You know, these guys are absolute garbage. They're absolute garbage. They're absolute garbage. These are not absolute garbage. They're just kind of garbage. Ironcap Arquebusiers. Now, Ironcap Arquebusiers are one of those rare units that you can use all the way through to the end game in random sieges. Why? You move them left a little bit, fire with the one direction key. Move them right a little bit, fire with the one direction key. Their accuracy is perfectly fine. Their damage is great because it's a musket. High damage, high armor penetration, right? And you give these guys a few, even, look, most of mine are green on there, but I still use these guys in higher tier games sometimes as a filler. And they do really good damage in the early to mid part of the game, so levels 0 all the way up to several hundred. This unit will do solid damage consistently for a very low cost, about 145 leadership. And it's not weak. You know, like most muskets, or most ranged units generally, if you get into close combat, you'll kill them. But this unit, particularly if you understand how the unit works, and you can stutter step them to get the most out of their volley, you know, create a volley fire effect, which I have, if you just go through and have a look at my videos that have them in it, that they do heaps and heaps of damage. This is a good unit. It's kind of like the pike militia of the of the ranged world. It's definitely not weak, because if you have the skills, you can do just as much damage with this as you could with this or this. Just saying. Kriegsrat. Kriegsrat Fusiliers. Now these guys are kind of cool. The bayonet was introduced into history in about the 17th century, so these guys are a little bit late for the general timeline of the game. They fire very fast. They have very good accuracy and very good range. They can be put in a spot and just will devastate anything that walks into their fire arc. Their only downside is they have low ammunition, which isn't that much of a deficit when you have such a high rate of fire and a high amount of damage. This is a good unit. I still use this unit often, and you know, even though we've got Shinjis and Tercios, this unit is a good unit, particularly if you're leveling up through the levels. If you're new to the game, you're in the early game, this unit here, if you get this unit and max it, it will carry you all the way through to the end game. It's very good. Levy Bowman, absolute garbage. Low damage, low armor penetration, low rate of fire, low accuracy, low ammunition. It's just, there's no redeeming features on this unit whatsoever. Don't bother with it. Longbowman. There'll be some contentions and there will be some comments on this. I instinctively want to put them in trash tier. They have moderate, well, they actually have reasonably good armor penetration and reasonably good damage stat. The problem with this unit is that even if it's accurate, it shoots a very long way. You can get it over 120 meters range if you build for it. The problem is that if anything takes one step to the left at that, within the 3 or 4 seconds, 3 seconds that the arrow takes to travel that long, it misses. And this is the inherent problem with this unit. Even though it shoots reasonably accurate at long range, it shoots where it estimates the unit will be when it impacts, and unless the unit is standing dead still, you can't do anything with it. There's things like Falconetti, these guys up here, that don't move, so you could target them. Other archers get whittled down pretty quick by this unit, so I guess it's not totally trashed here, but it is absolutely not a good unit. It is not a good unit, and I do not recommend you take this unit. It is weak. The only thing saving it from trashed here is its extreme range. Like, it's really hard to get work done with this unit. if you put them right up next to the enemy behind the battle line and shooting only 20 meters, well, any of these units can do damage at that range. You're better to take something with a much faster fire rate. The only reason you'd take this if you're trying to shoot out to 120 meters and target other archers or falconetti, things like that. And in that respect, they're okay. They're definitely not a good unit. They are absolutely weak, and I never use this unit anymore. I have it maxed, including the veterancy, the unit tech tree nodes. It just doesn't do work, man. Namcan Archers. Namcan Archers have been the bane of heroes and heavy units since Season 2. This unit used to get absolute hate for being so super overpowered, but over time it's kind of just been whittled away and the meta's moved away from them. Are they powerful? They're no longer powerful. They're definitely not trash tier, and they're definitely not weak. So this unit was going to belong in good. You can see how I've put a lot of purple doctrines on there. You can put all sorts of extra damage and things on them, and they have a decent range. They have a bleed effect, which you can turn off and on. Why you would ever have it off, I don't know. Just switch it on and forget about it. And that bleed can stack up to 10 or 15 stacks. I haven't used them in so long, I forget. But that causes serious damage to heroes. And with the current meta of heavy units like Silidars and Iron Reapers, this unit can still get some good work done. It's not... And fire it onto a point, people don't want to stand on it because they don't want the bleed effect, which stops them healing unless they have the right, bandage rune. So this unit can still get good work done. I don't dislike it. It's kind of like a middle of the road. It's a good unit. It's just a good unit. Parvi's crossbows. Now, there are a lot of wide-ranging opinions on Parvi's crossbow. They used to, I don't know if they were bugged or what when they first got introduced, but they were like an MG42 platoon that would annihilate anything that even dared stick your head out on them. Everybody played them, and over time they've been nerfed and buffed and nerfed and buffed and nerfed and buffed, and to where they are today. One thing that doesn't get used enough on this unit is the shield wall. You have a bonus shield wall that people don't use, which can be very effective when used in the right way at the right time, particularly when you're solo playing, because you'll think, oh my goodness, I'm getting attacked and no one's supporting me. Whoop, pop up the shield wall and you're safe. It does high damage with high penetration. The only problem is it shoots slowly, and the biggest part of it shooting slowly is it takes a long time to draw back the crossbow and then aim it. It takes a long time to aim as well. And because of that, it ends up with a typically low fire rate. If you're shooting at things that are relatively static, you'll be okay. It doesn't track and shoot moving targets very well. If you don't have a double shot doctrine, this unit's not for you. It's only thing that makes it decent is the double shot doctrine that gives extra damage. So what tier does it belong in? Is it weak? Is it trash tier? It's definitely not powerful, and it's definitely not trash tier. So is it a good unit or is it weak? The thing is, we're going to talk about some other units here that are strong soon. So I think we could put this in a good unit, but it is tending towards weak, just because of its cost versus its output more than anything else. But it has a shield formation. It can shoot out heavy damage at high penetration. So I think it's a good unit. I think it belongs in the good unit tab here. Prefecture Archers. Prefecture Archers are my favourite non-gold ranged unit, I think. Is that safe to say that? They have a very high rate of fire, they have high damage, they have high penetration in the sort of 1800 region. They have a natural arrow rain that does not have its damage reduced. It can also shoot beyond its maximum range using this ability, and the cooldown on it, depending on what veterancy lines you take, can be very, very low. So you can pour out a heck of a lot of arrows that are extremely accurate and reasonably good damage very, very quickly. Is it a powerful unit? I don't think it's the same as like Falconetti or Shinji's, so we're going to put it in the good tier unit. It's definitely not weak. This is a good hunter of other archers. It's a good hunter of units that are not moving. It's an excellent hunter of cavalry, would you believe, because they actually track and shoot very well. It's just an all-round good unit, and I recommend this unit for all tiers of play. I play this even in high elo, high tier matches. They have great utility and have great damage. Rattan Marksmen. Rattan Marksmen were the first unit in the whole game that I maxed out on the veterancy line and levels. They're great, man. They've never really been tweaked that much. They're resistant to penetration, so other archers, other ranged units. They put out a frightening amount of damage, quite frankly, at low level. If you're level 100, 200, 300, this unit should be doing huge amounts of damage for you. In higher tiers, higher elo, in solo ranked matches, it's hard to set them up where you're not going to get hit by a musket bomb. A musket bomb will wipe the unit. That's typically the same for all, but with the crossbow units, you've got a much lower range than, say, the prefecture archers or the Namcans or these guys, for example. So that's one of the downsides. If you can find your way to shoot on like White Elk Fort, where you can set up in the door and just shoot onto the A point, that's a great spot for them, man. And they can do very, very devastating amounts of damage, even to high tier units. They'll shred heroes. If heroes try and dive into this, most of them will die. I mean, a short sword's not going to die, but if a glaive or a pike tries to dive into this unit and kills them, the unit will typically massacre them. I'm going to put it in good. It's not weak and it's not powerful, and it's certainly not trash tier. I like this unit. It's a lot of fun, particularly. Yeah, it's a good unit. The Sea Stag Death Dealers. Now, this is one of the mercenary units, just like the Black Dragon Archers here. It has high penetration and high damage, and that is all I can say about this unit. This unit is the worst unit in the entire game. It is horrendous, just so bad. But Knight, you just said that they have high damage and high penetration. Absolutely. But you could put them inside a barn and they could still not hit the barn. They would shoot the floor, the dirt floor. You could, I don't know, man, you could safely set these guys up in your greenhouse and know that you'll never have a broken pane of window because they cannot hit anything. It is so bad. I can't even explain to you how bad this unit is. It is absolutely, there's nothing below trash tier, unfortunately, because these would be, don't even speak their name tier of absolute garbage. Do not waste your silver on this unit. Do not waste your money on this unit. It is the worst unit in the game, and I cannot stress that enough. Moving on. Shinji Grenadiers. Shinji Grenadiers are awesome. They're awesome. They have high damage, very high accuracy, high armor penetration. Oh, excuse me. Their special ability is they throw a grenade, and that grenade is utterly devastating. It has a high knockdown and moderate damage, and it affects a huge area. The best bit is then they follow up with better accuracy towards that spot that they chuck the grenade. Now, this unit is bordering on overpowered. It's tanky as well. Like, not as tanky as, say, the Tercios, but if you're trying to attack it with a hero, it's actually, they're tankier than they look, man. And there's absolutely no question that this is a powerful unit. It has huge amount of damage, huge amount of potential, huge amount of support points from the knockdowns and things like that. It's just an all-round good unit. Very, very powerful. No hesitation to recommend it to everybody. Tercios, the Tercio Arquebusiers. This was my first tier 5 or gold unit in the game, and it's certainly my first tier 5 maxed as well, but things have changed from back then. The Tercios are typically a little bit bland. Their role is to stand there and blast away as quickly as they can with good accuracy and good damage and good penetration, a huge amount of ammunition for a ranged unit. The reason that you see a lot of them is they're a one button, haha, I got you, unit. If a hero is closer to this unit than anything else and you press the 2 key, the 2 key will rapid fire 3 rounds relatively accurately, and it will kill even a short sword or a long sword. I think it needs working on, because it's bullshit, basically. It's a I got you, one button meh unit. Beyond that, once they fire their musket, they have like a close combat ability that is bugged to hell and just doesn't work. Still solid unit. The thing that might take it from good and put it into powerful is that triple tap. Nah, got you, haha. Zero skill. Just no skill involved. But I think we're going to put it in powerful just for that reason alone. It does have the potential to snipe heroes in a BS way. Vanguard Archers. I have a guide on the Vanguard Archers because people told me they were good, and so I investigated them. Pro tip, they're not good. They're not good. They're the same sort of leadership cost as, like, say, the Prefecture Archers, but their special ability is that they can shoot while running, provided you are running towards the enemy. Yes, you heard that right. They can shoot while running if they are running towards the enemy, because they can't shoot behind them. You can run almost parallel, like if you run in parallel you still can't shoot, but if you run sideways and sort of towards them you can shoot. I don't know what this unit exists for, man. You can put it in a spot and just shoot into melees, and it does reasonably good damage, just like most other archers of its tier. It has the same sort of armor penetration, the same sort of damage stat. But its special ability is meh. Like, why would you ever want to run towards your target while shooting? Tell me that. It's not trash. It's certainly not in the tier that these guys are. So we'll put it in weak. I don't recommend this unit. It is bordering on trash. But it still has a reasonable rate of fire, damage, accuracy, and penetration. So you can use it just for standing there and shooting into stuff. Rattan Vipers. Only a couple of weeks ago, I did a guide on Rattan Vipers. Now, Rattan Vipers don't do a ton of damage. What they do have is if you tag somebody with a poison arrow, and they have a natural poison ability, that you don't have to activate it or anything like that, that unit is doing something like 70% less damage for the next few seconds. And that applies to heroes as well. It also, as it stacks, will interfere with the movement. It's a massive, like maybe 50 or 60% speed debuff to anything hit to it. And so this unit is actually really, really good. Surprisingly so. And if you're surprised to hear me say this, go and check my guide. Watch the first 1 minute of my video where I say, hey, before you get in, let me just show you why, and you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked, absolutely shocked at what this unit can do. It's certainly not powerful, it's certainly not weak, so it belongs in the good unit tier. Especially if you've got an arrow rain doctrine on it where you just pelt the enemy with arrows, and it makes them all unable to attack and damage your units. So if you have 3 enemy units versus 3 of your units, sort of a death ball versus death ball scenario, lots of heroes and things as well, and one side has these archers, these vipers, their side will always win, because the damage being done by the enemy units is lowered to 25 or 30% of their typical output. Well, on your side, you're doing full damage. It can be used in all sorts of frightening ways, and people are often very surprised how good this unit really is. You're not going to get the kills for yourself, which is why you don't see them very often in the games, because people want to get kills and look good on the scoreboard rather than trying to win. But this unit is actually very, very good, in my humblest of opinions. So, and we come last but not least to the ball boys, the camel nuts, the ball throwers, the testy tossers. I've heard so many different names for this unit that is absolutely fantastic, because they have such a good unit icon, right? So, it is not a powerful unit and it is not a trash tier unit. So, where does it belong? The flames on the ground can be used to delay and harm enemy units for a long, long time. While they're panicking and trying to put the flame out on themselves, they can't attack or defend themselves, so no shield up and certainly no attacking the enemy. And it also does good damage over time. I don't think this unit is weak, although it is very tricky to use. You can use it in solo random queue sieges quite happily without having to worry about too much about what your friends are doing. You just stay behind them, and when you see an opportunity, you come out, you throw them, and then you pop back again, and then you win. So I'm going to put this unit in the good tier. It's certainly not weak. It's, you're not going to get the same levels of murders out of them as this or this. Maybe this should be up and powerful, but these certainly shouldn't. I'm so conflicted about this one, but it does lots of good damage, and it's the disruption and the CC that it causes that really bring it from weak up to good. if it didn't have those abilities, it certainly, wouldn't be amazing. But especially if you're low tier, say level 100, 200, 300, this unit will be absolutely devastating to your opponents. In high tier matches, you're mostly using it to disrupt the enemy or change their behaviours or to CC. So, there we are, boys and girls. I hope you learned something new, or you just enjoyed the video. Leave your comments below for new people. Thanks for coming to my channel.